I'm Milan Patel, and this is a 1999 Dodge Viper. This motor is a Drum and Race Cars built 542 cubic inch V10 Viper block. It's dart and sleeve done by Race Engine Development, diamond pistons, and Carrillo steel rods. It's got a custom spec cam and has striker heads, also done by Drum and Race Cars. It's got twin Garrett Gen 2 88s. They can make at least 40, that's what Dad has said. And that should be good for at least 3,000 horsepower. It made 2,800. I think that was on 35 PSI. What it was actually doing was during our dyno pull, it was sucking in the exhaust fumes, so it kind of hurt the engine performance a little bit, so that might have been a 3,000 pull, but we'll have to actually do it in order to figure out how much it actually makes. It's got a Motec M150 with Chris Delgado's Per Speed Pro Drag firmware. So the best quarter mile was about a month ago. I went 695 at 202. And then back in 2012, Dad actually went faster than me. He went 696 at 215.
Yes, sir!
He's back halfing a lot harder than I did. The best half mile we've done is 244 mile an hour. Comfortable with the car. I mean, we've had our best front half numbers. It's definitely progressing a lot nicer than it did 9 years ago. So I'm feeling a lot more comfortable. The car so far has been doing what it should. And so just hope that we keep going faster next time out. I'm just gonna stick to quarter mile racing, you know, wide open throttle for just under 7 seconds is enough for me. Dad's a little bit more wild with 15 seconds wide open. It's got a 2-speed power glide built by Bad Habit Racing in Newark, Maryland. It's got a drive shaft shop axles, and it has a 9-inch Ford conversion. It's still the IRS stock suspension with Penske custom valve shocks. On the front, we have 17-inch skinnies, or 17-inch wheel skinnies. And then on the rear, we have Mickey Thompson Pro 315 drag radials. It's driven by a Waterman mechanical fuel pump, and the injectors are 220-pound Siemens Deca injectors, and it runs on C16. And when we start to push it a little bit harder, we'll start mixing in a little bit of VP import.
You see these big old units.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a Motec display.
I like how nice and tucked in. Like just with everything inside this car, it just looks like it belongs here.
It does. We got
so clean.
yeah.
Wow. is all I have to say. So the car, the poles, we were on wastegate. Sal was telling me it's somewhere around 9 pounds of boost. This car is just absolutely insane. Everything about this car, just the attention to detail of this car is absolutely nuts, and what a car. All right guys, so Sal is currently on the laptop. He says he's gonna loosen up the traction control a little.
Drum and Race Cars has built this car from the chassis to the engine. Dad and Chris Salgado and Steve worked together to tune the car. Steve put in a SFI certified 25.3 roll cage in it, so it's good for 650s at this weight level.
First met Sal actually at US 13 Dragway. He was there with his Supra. We ended up doing a roll bar in that thing because he was already too fast for what he was allowed to go. And then after that, then we started on the Viper project. So that was probably back in the early 2000s. The process on Sal's Viper probably was in the range of a 1.5-year project. Back when we first started that project, the V10, the Viper engines were even less popular for performance. So getting certain parts definitely took a lot longer than what it should have. Getting into the sixes, I believe 2012, that was our big accomplishment then. You know, at that time there was other cars trying to accomplish that, and they were all big builds, and we had just been racing the car from time to time when Sal felt like it, not really focusing on anything, and then everybody came about and they're like, oh, we're going to be the first IRS car in the sixes. And we're like, you know, we were the first IRS car in the mid sevens, we were the first IRS car in the low sevens. And some other cars came along and they went 730s. Next thing you know, they went 711, or no, Sal went 711. Mark Carlisle started chasing the record and he went 707, I believe. And that's when we decided, okay, if we don't get out and get busy, somebody else is going to be the first. So we went the very following Friday to Maryland International Raceway, and we put up a 6-second pass on the very first hit. It's tried and proven. There's so many things with the car that, you know, were things that we did back then that nobody had done with a, you know, a Viper to this level. So the fact that it still performs with the latest technology and the latest builds that are out there today is, great. And I mean, I feel like there's definitely more there. We were running a lot faster up front when Milan went faster. When we went 6s with Sal driving, we were running it a lot harder on the back half. So now with the front half numbers that we're achieving now, I feel like we can go a lot faster out the back. It's just we didn't want to get too carried away because Milan's, limited seat time. So we wanted to keep progressing him along, keeping him comfortable in the car. And he did an awesome job. Did everything, we say, okay, this run, we expect you to pull the parachute at this point in the run, and he would do it. He's leaving the starting line. A lot of people that aren't into drag racing don't realize that pretty much anybody that drives a super fast car drives it on a drag strip with one hand. So generally, rule of thumb is put your hand down here at the bottom. And if you got to move the wheel more than that, then it's time to abort the run. Vipers are known for being light on the front. They were originally road race cars, so they were kind of balanced out for road racing, which was around 50-50. You start adding a whole bunch more power. Now when you try to accelerate it on the drag strip, they're prone to trying to wheelie. We've done things to move weight that we have to carry anyway towards the front of the car to try to get our percentages where we want them.
When I was little, I guess I imagined it, but I was like, oh no, that's his car. I'll grow up with it and then just watch him race it. But then it wasn't until last year where we actually started taking it seriously. Where Dad was like, hey, do you actually plan on driving it? And I was like, I do. This is when I still had school and everything, so I was really busy, wrapped up in school. As soon as COVID hit, we were like, we should probably start getting into it. So then I actually started to work here at Drummond Race Cars and started to learn just a little bit more about cars. And then last summer is when I made my first pass in the Viper. And then from there, we've just been going into the track and just trying a little bit more boost, trying different things to make it go a little bit faster. It was a little bit difficult, but I guess I was just motivated in both subjects or both areas. So my school obviously comes first and then racing, but I really have a passion for racing. So I guess I can incorporate it into my everyday schedule and just make time for it, as would anyone. Honestly, it's unreal. There's a lot of people who will never get the chance to drive anything close to this, and I'm blessed that I have this at my fingertips where Dad was able to hand this over to me and trust me with the car. Not only driving it's like the 8th model, but actually driving it out the quarter, because from a father's perspective, it's nerve-wracking. He told me that he pretty much doesn't breathe for 7 seconds until he sees that chute, and he knows I'm slowing down, and we're not tracking anywhere, and I'm not doing anything unsafe in the car. That's the reason the crash in 2013 is the reason I drive with one hand, because Dad, he drove with one hand there, and he had his hand on the chute. And in the video, as soon as he gets sideways, he pulls that chute and it straightens him out just enough where he still hits the wall at a good speed, but it's a lot better than what it could have been, because if he didn't pull that chute, it would have hit the wall and just pretty much square on, and it would have been a lot worse.